What's the story, guys? Marcus here. Welcome to another podcast. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Founders Coffee, the most tasty, the most delectable coffee here in Las Vegas. Now, check it out. It's right across the road from IKEA on Durango. If you drop your promo code WHH, you're going to get 10% off your order. Pass me that beard balm right there. Jay Baller's beard balm. For when your beard needs to be money. And, of course, how could we forget today's episode? We are proudly sponsored by the Aussie Project, Las Vegas's newest meat pies, sausage rolls, chicken pies, beef pies. Let me tell you, we are home delivering now. We're going to put all the details in the description at the bottom of the podcast. And of course, today's episode is fueled by...
In Ireland, the highest form of compliment in any pub is an insult. So I'm considered quite complimentary. Proper number 12, Irish whiskey.
When you talk about some of your favourite fights in UFC history, there's many that come to mind. But how about the guy that really kicked it off? How about the man that put it on the map for the UFC? A guy that took it all to the beginning of where it is today and is still going strong. But don't take it from me. Check this out. Former light heavyweight champion of the world, UFC Hall of Famer, the winner of The Ultimate Fighter Season 1. Welcome to the podcast, the legend himself, Forrest Griffin!
Hey, thanks so much for having me. That was a lot of excitement there.
When you see a clip like that, how does that make you feel?
Old.
Well, as you can see, the resolution of the clip that we had in there was like...
Yeah, right. It's obviously just stolen off the internet.
Well, thanks very much for joining us on the show today, brother. I know we're doing it here via virtual interview. Where are you actually in this lovely world of ours?
I'm like miles away from you guys, or mile away, as it were. So I'm at the UFC building. You guys are way down the street.
So that's the thing. Forrest was very happy to join us on the show today. He is only a mile down the road, but he was like, nah, fuck it. I'm just going to do it from the office at the house. Well, good to see you, man.
Well, it's great to be here. Yeah, it was. I'm a busy guy, right? Man, cut down on that travel time. I'm telecommuting. It's the future.
So you've been known as the comedian of the UFC world. How did you get that reputation?
I mean, this is the first I'm hearing about that. So,
actually, I just made that up because I wanted you to
do some jokes. Right.
Speaking of comedians, I want to introduce you to my co-host today. Yeah. All the way from Las Vegas, my main man, Matt, the ultimate food chef. What's up, brother?
What's up, guys? The ultimate food champion, Marcus. Don't worry. It's coming soon. It's getting it down. We're jotting it down. We're making notes. Forrest, a pleasure to meet you virtually. How you doing today, brother? Are you
I'm
good?
great, man. I'm great. It's good to talk to you as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Are you guys like in the same studio, just on opposite sides?
Opposite sides of the table.
Oh, there we go. Okay. All right.
So it's fueled by Proper 12, but you're wearing that Howler whiskey shirt. You
Oh,
a fan of
yeah.
Howler?
What's that?
Are you a fan of Howler whiskey?
I'm trying to be.
You're trying to be.
I mean, it tastes good with soda.
Does it?
I don't drink liquor. Liquor
Okay.
is like way too manly for me.
Oh, come on. I think you're the manliest man ever to grace the octagon, to be honest with you.
No, that's Don Fry. Let's be honest, or maybe Dan
Ooh.
Severn, or maybe Randy
Dan
Couture.
Severn. Dan Severn was a good man. So was Randy Couture. Shout out to
Yeah.
Extreme Couture.
So we're looking back at you talking about all those UFC legends from back in the day. I mean, you're kind of up there, Forrest. Is that a?
No. I'm in transition. I'm in the middle there. Yeah.
So you
It's
were
like
kind of pretty much,
me and the other guys on the show are kind of the link between the old school and the new school, if you really think about it, right?
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah.
Bruce Franklin and Matt Hughes, they were like the second generation. And then the Ultimate Fighter came along. And then, you know, you move to the third generation, which was the Anderson Silvas. And now we're to like the fifth generation, which is the Israel Asandeus of the world and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Connors and the Israels. So, you know, yeah, it's like every decade in a sport is a generation.
So how do you think those former warriors kind of compare? I don't want to say the word compare, but that's what I'm going to say. How do they kind of compare to the warriors of these days? How much of a difference is there in the sport from back when you were doing it to now?
But I mean, realistically, it's wildly different because the training methods are better. The level of athleticism is better. The number of people that try the sport is better, right? So your starting block is bigger. And then as that funnels down, you start with more people. So more people, you know, the old boxing saying talent goes where the money is, right? The money and the notoriety, that's now in MMA. So you're having, you know, 14-year-old kids start training. I didn't start training until I was 20, 21, you know? So
So
there's,
being up at, yeah, so you're up at the
and then
UFC.
people always say, because Anderson's fighting this weekend, people are like, well, how would Anderson do in his prime against the guys today? And I always say that's an unfair equation because Anderson would have trained smarter. He would have known more techniques like the guys today do, right? So
Wow,
you can't
yeah.
really account for that. The level of talent and athleticism, I think, is the same. But guys today, they've just seen more. They've got a wider variety of techniques. They've been doing more techniques longer. When I first started training, I threw a jump kick. They said, what are you doing? Don't leave your feet in a fight. That's stupid. Somebody can knock you over. Now it's just par for the course, right?
Yeah. So do you think that, like now the UFC has the Performance Institute, do you think that if you had a Performance Institute back in, you know, back in your day, that your career would have gone a lot different?
Yeah, it would have been longer. You know, it's not just the PI. It's the information you get from people that understand the human body and such, right? So, you know, I would have sparred less. I would have, you know, I would have had somebody make me do actual drills. I never liked. People always would say, you know, you're such a hard worker, but I hate doing like the tedious learning stuff, like where you learn techniques. I just like do like 5 or 10 minutes of technique and be like, cool, can we just fight now?
Yeah. So are you still training at all?
I don't train at all. I mean, I try to do a little bit of fitness stuff. Before COVID, I was doing jits like once a week and then hitting mitts once a week. Now I've been doing a little bag work. Like COVID really crushed my MMA dreams. So
Right.
I'll never be as a professional martial artist now. COVID ruined it for me.
So what is your actual role at the PI, Forrest? Can you let everybody know what you actually do
A
up
lot
there?
of people mind their own business. What I do. No, I'm the vice president of fighting.
And explain that role.
Does that need an explanation? So
You're the
let's say
vice.
that you're in the UFC. You're one of the 600 rostered fighters on the UFC. All independent contractors, all have equal access to the PI. So, you know, what do they need? What's the best way they can engage and use the Performance Institute? And how does the UFC react best to athletes' needs, whether it be, you know, all the stresses of a fight week, something I was just looking at, like, man, you know, you have all these obligations. If you think about a fight week, how can the UFC make it as easy as possible so that you can perform at your best? How can they help you as much as possible with nutrition, making the weigh-ins at a reasonable time, having you come in at a weight that doesn't require you to destroy your body and empty yourself a day or two before the biggest competition of your life? You know, if you think about a training camp, you've done the same thing for 8 to 10 weeks, right? This routine, this regiment, you're got your circadian rhythm, everything's, you know, your food, everything's kind of laid out in a training camp. And then the last week or the last 5 days, it's like, all right, you're going to get on a plane, you're going to go to a new time zone, you're going to get up at weird times and have to answer a bunch of questions, because just the way it works, if you want to make money fighting, then you have to do all the media stuff. You have to sell the fight, etc. If you just want to fight and be the best, then you don't have to do any of that. But if you want to get paid, you have to do the media obligations. You have to make people care. And unfortunately, the way of the world is people only care right before you fight. I would always be like, yeah, I love doing interviews. I love this stuff. Can we do this right after the fight? And then it's just like, realistically, nobody cares. It's like, we want you before the fight.
I mean, it's so intricate what
You
goes on up there.
can't sell the fight after the fight. It's too late.
Right. We had Roman Foreman in here last week, the director
Yeah,
of
you did. I heard.
And man, I tell you what, he had. Not only is he just such an amazingly great guy, but he has just had an insight and just taught me so many things that I had no idea about. Now, I knew a lot about the physical aspect of being in the UFC and being a mixed martial artist. One thing that I wasn't really savvy on was the mental aspect is literally as important as the physical aspect. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Roman's episode, but what Roman does a lot is, if you think about your mind, you have, a time a day where you're primed to succeed. And if you think about the sport of MMA, due to the intellectual demands of the sport, it's actually the most complex and open sport in the world. You have to adapt, on the fly, as they say, very, very quickly. And you have to be mentally in tune to do that. And this is something else that I did not think about when I was training myself. I was like, I didn't really consider that you need to be mentally at your best as well. So they do, they have all kinds of cognitive reaction drills. And really, all it is a fancy version of guys throwing the tennis ball. If you're familiar with the way, you have a guy turn around and then he flips and you throw a tennis ball and he catches the tennis ball.
Yeah.
It's just reaction time. All that stuff Lomachenko does. But the difference is in here, a guy like Roman can quantify and measure it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so static.
Yeah, we're having a scratchy.
We're having a scratch.
Is that? Oh, that's from Forrest. And
That's
Forrest,
you.
he's scratching.
Was that me?
Yeah, I think Forrest was scratching his nutsack there. I'm not sure what was going on, but it sounded pretty loud. That's okay.
So one of the things Roman Foreman touched
Like,
on.
why are Forrest hands out of frame? What's going on down there?
What are you doing underneath that camera?
Dying to know, you were so tough in that octagon. What exactly was it? Was it cardio? Was it hard?
Every time I think about how tough I was or wasn't, I'm reminded of guys like Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture. So I was pretty tough when my body was working. All right. And so like Randy and Chuck, their bodies quit on them. I mean, just having been around both of them when they were training, their bodies quit on them. And they still were so mentally tough. They were able to force themselves out there and in Randy's case, will victories to happen. And in Chuck's case, he wasn't able to win anymore, but he was still mentally, believed in himself and was strong. It was, and then seeing that, you almost feel like intimidated. You're like, these guys are ridiculous. This is silly. Like, so it's funny. And then you don't think of Uriah Faber as a mentally tough guy, do you?
I actually disagree because he came back and he had that great knockout win. Obviously before he fought Peter Yan, but he had a great win. So
even in the Peter Yan fight, he's incredibly mentally tough. But he's not a guy like, so people think you're mentally tough because I had like a look on my face and I was gritting and I was like, mentally tough. But Uriah's mentally tough in a way that he just keeps it light. He's there. He's trying to have fun. So even if he's getting beat up, he doesn't really look like it's the worst thing in the world.
His composure. He had great composure.
Yeah. He stayed in a positive mindset. Whereas people always think I'm tough because I had like a look on my face like I was about to die.
Did your mother ever go and watch any of your fights, brother?
Yeah, I mean, she watched them later, and then I think she might have watched a couple live. This is something else I did. I kind of distanced and dissociated myself from my family or everything else. You see guys take their wife and kid and gals and women, they take their husbands and everybody to the fight. For me, it was like, my fight is for me. Like I'm doing this is a selfish thing that I'm doing to test myself. And, I didn't really want that support or like nurturing or anything that like, I wanted kind of like me and my buddies to go out and like, Ronin Samurai or some nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I always thought about it.
So you always went into battle alone. You never gave out any of those free tickets that Dana and the UFC were presenting for you.
I straight, I had a guy boom, call the guy. Nobody, don't call me. I'm fighting. It's my time. It's selfish, right? I'm selfish anyway. But then, like on fight day, or fight week, it's actually time to be selfish for real.
Well, you should be. It's a tough job.
Yeah,
it's not ballet.
I never had an entourage, but I always had a guy, and that is why you see people with an entourage, because somebody's got to take care of everything. Like somebody's you're ready for your meals and your scheduling, and your family's calling. So somebody's got your personal phone, and then somebody's got to tweet some nonsense for some product because they gave you money, and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you don't have to remember all that, like.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we want to go back to, we want to talk about the question number 4, right, which is your question that you wrote down about why you missed the flight. What has Matt got here? Why? Before the tough,
because I did not get on the plane, so there was the flight to the Ultimate Fighter.
Yes.
And so they are not flexible with that departure time. They're pretty serious about it. Actually, they're very flexible about it, but not according to you. Planes leave when planes want to leave, not when you want them to leave. And so, I'm sitting in Atlanta, Georgia, on the plane, maybe do the Ultimate Fighter, and all of a sudden I just said, "Oh my God, what am I doing, man? I'm like 25 years old. I've basically given the last 5 years of my life to this sport, and here I am, with a broken hand, a broken arm, and
wow,
a broken shoulder, and as of like 8 months before, I'd been I was living in my parents' living room, so that's winning. And I was like, man, I really want to do this again. And then, I ended up talking to the producer, a guy named Ahmet. Never forget him. He was actually the one who changed my life. And then I talked to Dana, and it was like a bad connection. And what I came away with the conversation from Dana was that it's better to regret the choices you make in life than the choices you don't make, right? So if you don't make a decision, you've let somebody else make that decision for you, right?
Right.
I mean, that's just, once again, like I talk to a lot of you guys. I talk to a lot of these mixed martial artists, and they kind of have this one little thing that normal average Joes like me and the boys don't have, and it's that little warrior spirit that they have that kind of pushes them forward a little bit more than the normal average Joe. Do you believe that? I mean, to be in the industry that you guys are in and to do what you do, you have to have that little extra edge to the normal man. Do you believe that?
So, there's a lot of things to that, right? So, like, I thought about joining the Army after 9/11, but I didn't, right? So, to me, those people, they had that edge. And then, I see people like bull riding. That seems crazier than fighting to me. I get more afraid, like, skydiving or on a roller coaster than in an actual fight. Nobody's ever died, really, in a professional high-level fight. There's a referee. The biggest thing for fighting that you do not realize is your ego. More that, stuff heals, but getting knocked out and crying in front of 1 million people, that will destroy your ego. And it's actually Quentin Jackson who said, it's a lot worse than being naked. You're completely disarmed and vulnerable out there at your best or worst, and then people can kind of judge you from that. So that's what I found later. It was more the ego. Anderson's fighting this weekend. I had probably the worst day of my life when I fought him, and it was like people 15 years later, people are like, hey, remember that time? Or yeah, Anderson. And I'm like, yeah, that's ego, and then to watch the film and you're just disgusted with yourself. So it is hard, man. It is a reality check,
So basically, you touched on Anderson Silva. He's fighting this weekend. How long did it take you to get over that loss? And how do you feel about him fighting this weekend? Does it bring back any old memories?
No. I mean, I'm happy the guy. He's a great guy. He was a true ambassador for the sport. Made a lot of fans in Brazil for MMA. He's a professional too. The one thing, as far as I got married right after I fought him, and then I kind of went away, and me and my wife were out in the woods, and it was pretty awesome. So, And the other loss that really hurt me was the Shogun loss, because that's when I knew that I was never going to be like in the top 5 or in the title picture again, because I'd had a pretty good camp when I lost to Shogun, and got knocked out in like 2 minutes. I was like, oh my God, my chin is garbage. My reaction time is worse than garbage. And, my instincts are all wrong. Who knows what I was doing after you get, because sometimes you'll get hurt and your instincts will take over and they do the right thing. Sometimes they do the wrong thing. And then, so for me, I was like, man, I'm not long for this sport. I might still be able to fight, but I'm never going to be champ again, or I'm never going to be in that title picture conversation again, and then I had a kid right after that, and then the fighting thing seemed small. I was like, hey, as long as I can provide for my family, that's awesome. So after my 2 biggest losses that were the most emotionally impactful, I got married and had a kid. So I just shocked myself with other big life events.
Yeah, big life events
Or
like
if
love.
you have a family member die after a big loss, the loss will seem small in comparison. That's
Right.
a thought too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is well. I mean, and that's just extraordinary to hear you talk like that, man. I really respect that a lot. And the good thing about it is, as you said, nothing beats family, wife, kid,
Health.
health. Those are the top 3 things. So if there was one person that you could have looked back on in your career when you were fighting, that you could have fought, that you didn't, that you wanted to, that was nearly there, who would that have been?
Well, I almost thought I was going to fight Vanderlei Silva at one point, and I think that would have been a good fight. I don't know that I would have won, but it would have been a good fight.
Yeah, that is so weird that he said that.
That I looked for, and I was like, wow, that dude, he's something, man.
It's funny. I actually wrote down, if there was one person that he could have fought, I would wanted to see him fight Vanderlei Silva. That's really weird that you just say it's literally on the paper. That's absolutely crazy.
It is.
That is absolutely crazy. I said you and Vanderlei would have blown the roof off the place.
I was fighting for like $300 in crummy bars that they were letting people smoke in, which is not great for your fight performance.
That'll test the cardio.
He's winning the Pride Grand Prix, so I was like, oh my God.
Damn.
So then I grew up fighting him. The other one, I almost thought I was going to get the fight with Chuck Liddell when Rich Franklin got it. I actually thought I was on my way down to get that fight, and I was like, okay. And I was like talking myself up in the car ride, like, don't build them up too much. It's just a fight. And then they were like, oh, no. You already got a fight lined up. We just want you to help coach the show.
Interesting. Okay. That was another question I had. Would you have ever fought Chuck Liddell? Would you have, because you guys are friends, right?
Yeah, we're friends. I think it's more like a mentorship. He kind of
absolutely
helped me out. I have my manager because of him. I learned a lot about training because of him. I bought equipment because of him. So I really lucked out. The show was a great move for me because I got to see Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell and have a relationship with those guys training wise. After that continued, and I kind of got to see, I got to see what the pros do. I got to see what it's really all about, kind of a look inside. Because you're sitting there in Georgia, being the toughest guy in Athens, Georgia, and you're like, I wonder what the pros are training. And then you get out there and you're like, okay, it's not that different. There's a couple tricks, but it's not that different than what we're doing.
Right. So before the Rich Franklin, when Chuck fought Rich, you were actually supposed to get that fight. There was something building.
No. So I got a call from Dana that said, hey, I knew Tito had pulled out of coaching against Chuck. And I got a call from Dana and he said, hey, can you meet me at the Tough, gym?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I just heard Tito pulled out. And I was like, there's one reason only why this is happening.
Right.
So I went down there and he was like, hey, can you help Rich coach against Chuck? And I was like, oh, Rich, I'm an assistant coach. That's the call.
Yeah.
What a curveball.
Yeah. Well,
I already had a fight lined up. I already had a fight that I contractually was obligated to at the time. So
gotcha.
So when you speak of Tito Ortiz, what did the Trilogy fight mean to you?
I try not to think about it. It is what it is. I'd almost rather fight people like a little bit, because if you lose, at least you lose to a guy that, I don't want to say Tito's a bad guy or anything, but just you're not supposed to get along with everybody, right? We're just very different people.
Right.
Listen, there's some people that you like and there's some people that you don't like. It's kind of really interesting that you just said that, Forrest, that you would prefer to fight people that you like than you don't like, because afterwards, it's not as bad, right?
You could share a beer.
You're like, well, he's a decent guy. But, I mean,
Right.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that. So Tito's going to be a politician now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. The one thing I'll say about Tito, and I tried to tell him this, is, he fought, even though he was on a slide in UFC, he got out of UFC, he won some fights, he made some great money. And, you think about it, he started before he had a great career, really, and he ended it strong with a lot of wins over quality people, or at least big names at the end, and made a lot of money doing it. So, who really won in the end? I think him.
I mean, yeah.
Longer, right?
Yep.
Well, you won 2 out of 3 times when it comes to Tito, so I think you won in the end, personally.
Yeah.
And that was your last fight, right?
Oh, my God, it was. And that was another, that's not the way it was meant to happen either. I blew my knee out 21 days before I was supposed to fight another person that was in the UFC at the time. I forget.
Okay.
Vinny Magalhaen ended up taking that fight. Trained partner of mine, and I forget who we're supposed to fight. Guy that wears the purple shorts is in Bellator now. Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's a person. He's a human.
That could be a number of people. I'm not sure.
Man, it's so hard. It's so hard now.
There's like so many fighters. There's a fight card every week
on the UFC roster. Then you've probably got another 370 on the Bellator, and then whatever. But so let's talk about last weekend. Do you still watch the fights every weekend, Forrest? Like last weekend was obviously Khabib and Justin Gaethje. Did you watch that fight?
I watch the fights more now than ever because I work at the UFC. So when these people come in, I kind of need to know what, I need to look them up and see their last fight and make sure I know, that I'm not like, oh, yeah, good to meet you. You can't be okay. Yeah, how did you feel about your last fight? Did you,
Yep. So what did you think about the fight? What did you think?
Cardio, because you got really tired in your last fight. And I can say that to people and not get beat up. That's the great thing about being me. They're like, he doesn't mean anything by it. He's just trying to be way too honest.
Well, I see you on a lot of commercials here in Las Vegas, Forrest, making your comedy debut on these Las Vegas commercials. I see you everywhere, bro. What's with that?
I want to be a commercial actor when I grow up. Either that or like a pit pen for like ShamWow or something, just like I want to just like you ever watch Home Shopping Club at 3 a.m. and it's like guys selling like random knives, and you're just like, man, that'd be great.
I only do it if I'm on mushrooms.
I follow Dana's Instagram, and he just posted about these gloves that I've seen the commercial of that are supposed to be like fireproof, whatever.
Right,
like,
indestructible.
Yes. So,
yeah.
And I was like, does nobody else find it amazing that Dana White is also watching infomercials that we watch and like?
I never thought of that.
Off the internet.
I've never thought of that.
I was like, oh my God, this guy is buying random crap off an infomercial?
Remember,
it's good to see Dana White even buys crap off the internet.
Yeah, well, that's
just to see.
That's the ShamWow guy. Didn't he get arrested for crack?
Yeah, I mean, we all got
That's a controversial question. I can see Forrest Griffin with the ShamWow commercial. Introducing the ShamWow. Wax on, wax off. Tough enough, just like Forrest Griffin. Something like that. Maybe we get Bruce in on it.
See, now you know why I got this guy on the show, Forrest. He's my little mate that comes in and helps me out. Man, I'll tell you what. So, how long have we been going now? Let me just check.
Guy.
He what?
He's the ideas guy.
Yeah, he's the ideas guy.
I plucked them from the sky, from the clouds, for all the UFC fans to watch and enjoy at home.
Travis,
live on Spotify, YouTube, and iHeartRadio.
Also on Apple Podcasts and now streaming on everything else in the world right now. Travis, how long do we have left on this podcast, mate? Because
Um,
you fucked up.
it-
You fucked up earlier.
It's probably
All right.
going to be. It's probably going to be canceled in the next 2 months, if that's what you're asking.
Oh my god.
How long is this podcast lifespan?
Oh my god.
At least 3 months before they're like, yeah, the studio costs money. We're not really getting much out of it. You guys,
Everyone at home, put your wagers in. Now.
Forrest is like destroying my fucking dream right now
Forrest
with
has
his
200
reality
bucks
talk.
on 3 months.
Well, no, as you can see, the studio here at Show Creator Studio, this shit costs a lot of money for us, but we only pull it out.
That's pretty nice. Yeah, I mean, this equipment's not like cheap.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know because I once had a podcast that I was asked to not come to anymore.
Oh my god.
Well, we'll schedule the next one, and they were like never's good for us. Yeah, we'll let you know.
We had a couple of legends from the industry on here. Who did we have? We had Ken Shamrock last week.
Yep.
We had Stitch Duran came on. We had Kevin Lee.
We've had Johnny Pereira.
Johnny Walker and Michelle Pereira, the crazy Brazilians that come in here.
Those guys are crazy.
Those guys are amazing.
Oh,
They're
my
awesome.
God. Yes, they're like a handful. Well, yeah.
Yeah, we've been hanging out with them. They've been coming on. We've been feeding them. We've been hydrating them. They've came on the podcast a couple of times, and it's actually one of our highest listened on Spotify was the Michelle Pereira, Johnny Walker. Good guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that? Do you
They're
think
both
that?
guys that you like to watch fight too, right? Like those
Oh,
are
yeah.
two of my favorite guys right now to watch fight.
Well, that was going to be what I'm saying is, do you think that entertainment that is embraced more with the sport of mixed martial arts makes you a better profile name in the industry? Like people like Michelle Pereira and Johnny Walker, they're outlandish, they're funny, they're comedy.
I can forgive a loss if you're exciting and taking chances a lot more than I can. I'd rather watch a guy like those guys fight, and sometimes they lose. They get caught and they just lose, but they're out there taking chances, making it happen, as opposed to, do I want to watch a really tactical fight? And I can appreciate that, but
Right.
you know, how much counterfighting can happen? And you got two counterfighters countering the counters, and it's just like, man, you know, it is refreshing to see a guy like Pereira or Johnny Walker just go out and like, hey, you know what? I'm going to run and jump knee you. Hey, I'm going to do a backflip and try to heel kick you in the forehead. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, backflips off the cage. I mean, this guy does crazy stuff.
Now, do you think that's purely out of excitement and immaturity to the game? Like, obviously,
No. It's strategic too, right? If you
Sure.
have a guy that wants to stay in his box tight, you know, here, you start doing that stuff, and the other guy, you know, he can't stay in his box. You show him something that they don't know, that they've never seen before. They haven't drilled that reaction 1,000 times. You're coming to me
True.
with an inside heel kick. That happens every day. That's been happening for years. You're calf
True.
kicking me. Okay, I figured out how to defend that. Oh,
Right.
you're spinning heel kicking me to my head. Well, nobody really throws that in sparring, so I don't really know what to do. I'm a little shook.
but
Right.
wouldn't that have an effect on the cardio and your ability, your striking
Yeah.
ability, because you're using up a lot of that energy, Forrest? Would that
Yeah.
have an effect on
Yeah,
that?
those are high energy techniques, and that's another reason why you and I, as fans, should appreciate them.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh no, absolutely.
They're probably the two most exciting Brazilian prospects in Brazil right now. I mean, those guys,
Yeah.
they're young too. They're young. They're hungry. You know, I chat with them often. Johnny Walker is the number 9 light heavyweight contender in the world. Michelle is still looking to re-sign with the UFC in the contract, so maybe you can push Uncle Dana to get him a new contract. He's very hungry. He trains 4 times a day. Those guys are ready.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And obviously there's a bit of controversy. When I say controversy, now obviously Khabib retired last weekend.
Right.
And now pound for pound #1 in the world. However, John Jones has come in and said that it doesn't kind of really play up to it. You know, 15 world titles compared to 4. I'm not
Right.
exactly sure of the statistics. You have any thoughts on that? What do you think about that?
Yeah. So one of the things, and it's right on there, it's about activity. When was Jones's last fight, though? You know? No, I'm not saying he's the GOAT of MMA, not the GOAT. Kind of think he is, but his last fight, this is right now, his last fight was a 3-2 round decision
Right.
over a guy that you just saw get crushed in the title fight. That was
Right.
his last.
Dominic Reyes.
Yeah. So that was a close fight. Where he looked mortal. He looked human. He got beat up a little bit. Took some, not a lot. He never does, but as Khabib, like a guy that was anything but amazingly dominant in his last 3 or 4 fights. Nope. So you gotta. I think what Jones is saying is like, if you look at my body of work compared to his, I dwarf him, and I don't disagree with that. But I say if you look right now at what's happening right now, this guy's fought like 3 times since your last fight, right?
Oh, that's true. No, that's very true.
When I say it like that, you're like, well, it's true.
So who is the GOAT of MMA, Forrest?
You don't need to ask anymore. I settled it. It's done.
Yeah, it's done. Yeah,
it's done.
You're right. So I just got handed a note from the owner. Forrest was in the studio last week filming a political commercial. So you were here last week in my studio filming a political commercial, Forrest. Is that correct?
That is that studio.
Yes.
It's good to know that I'm not quite crazy, because I was like, man, that place looks kind of familiar. That's so weird. I feel like I've been there. Like,
what are the odds? It's a small world in an even smaller town.
I don't know when this comes out, but yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyway.
Well, we hope that you can share it and let everybody know, because it's been a really crazy interview. But yeah, man, this is the studio that we're in, Show Creators Studio here in Las Vegas. They are the number one. They have everything here, from podcast studios to sound stages to voiceover rooms to plaster cast fists of famous people. They've got everything. So we are here right now shooting the podcast. I'm very proud to be here. So now look, check this place out, Forrest. Check this place out.
No. Yeah, I have.
And you should have been sitting right over there, my friend, but that's okay. That's all good. Maybe we'll do it next time. So
I had to look up her last name. My friend's running for judge, Tara Clark Newberry. So if you could vote for Tara Clark Newberry for judge. Notice what I've done here. That is not a Republican candidate, anything of that. It's just a judgeship. So
okay. So what's her name? That's okay. We'll slide her name in down at the bottom of the podcast. Say that name again, will you, Forrest?
Tara Clark Newberry. She's running for district judge of district. Yeah,
everybody go out and vote for her.
So everybody go out and vote for her. So
did we establish Khabib's the pound for pound in your head? Is that what we did? Is that who you think's the pound for pound greatest?
Currently, he's ranked number 1. Currently. I think I just settled that. I think I just settled.
I just wanted to make sure that was definitive. I also wanted to ask you this. So you're in the PI a lot, right?
3 wins since Jones's last. 3 finishes since Jones's last decision win. I think that's what we just said there.
I'm pretty sure. So is there anyone coming up in the ranks, like all these new kids? We talked about the new kids earlier. Who do you think has the?
Yeah.
Who do you think would be the next GOAT in your opinion? Israel Adesanya's looking very good. He's undefeated.
GOAT.
Yeah.
The next GOAT. I don't know. People usually ask for prospects. Yeah, true. Israel.
Israel's good.
I mean, that's like the candy from a baby, easy. But sure, if you want to go that easy, let's do it.
Yeah. Israel's in town right now. Shout out to Israel Adesanya.
Have you been to Australia before, Forrest?
I have.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think of that place? Did you like it?
I love it. I'll tell you what. I was in Sydney, and it's a very metropolitan type place. And the first time I was there, I will say Australian dudes were not what I thought they were going to be. They were like skinny emo kids with like too tight clothes. And then we still joke, me and my buddies, that it's like the Australian fit, because they were like, yeah, no. So you must be like the country Australia folk, which is what we Americans think of, like a tough guy, like, Kangaroo Jack, whatever his name was, right? And then, you get into the city and it's just like, young kids in too tight clothing listening to, pop music. And you're like, what? These are not Australian kids. What is this? I don't see any huge knives. There's nobody just running around like catching snakes. This is this is not what I told Australian dudes were going to be. Imagine how upset women are when they go and they're just like, what?
Oh my God.
That's why they
Get some Outback meat.
that's why they come here to Las Vegas.
Down
And
Under, total lie.
what was that?
I went to the Thunder Down Under, total lie. There's nobody like that there.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Shout out to Thunder.
Shout out to the guys from Thunder from Down Under, the Australian Aussies that do their thing here in Las Vegas. Have you ever thought about joining that show, Forrest? Because
It's funny. I did not get the invite. Yeah.
can you do an Australian
I
accent?
was waiting for my invite. It's
Can
like,
you do an Australian accent?
2-year-old is getting kind of soft. I'm available. I mean, look at this hairline. It's I don't know. It's just not what the ladies are going for. I don't know.
I'm going to be honest, your hairline looks better than mine. If we could pan into that, I'm 31. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of living in your mother's living room, I'm still there. But we don't have to go address that.
Actually, Matt still is living in his mother's living room. Listen, man, as I said, there's a million questions. We're not going to get to them. Like in this podcast, kind of when we kind of wrap it up, we like to get our guests to do like a positive message to everyone that's kind of watching. Maybe people that are fans of yours. Maybe people that are like sucking in life a little bit at the moment that need some inspiration.
A lot of times I get to talk to fighters that are about to fight the week of, and I'll always say, "Hey, are you nervous?" And they're like, they don't want to admit it, but I'm like, "You're nervous. I can tell you're nervous. You know why you're nervous? Because you care about this, because you've done a lot of hard work to be here, because this right now is the most important thing in your life. So of course you're nervous. So you go with that. What you feel right now, that's your body getting ready. You were a fucking caveman, right? There's shit in your brain from prehistoric times, from when your ancestors used to kill whatever the fuck it was they killed to eat. That's still in you. Get the fuck out of your way and let that snake brain take over. You've got a reptile brain in the back of your head. It knows that you are getting ready for war. You feel the butterflies in your stomach? That's because your body's smarter than you are. It knows you don't need blood in your stomach. This is not the time to digest food. Everything feels like it's in car accident speed for me. Like time would like compress, but like go too fast. And I was like, what is this feeling? That's your mind cueing in, knowing that it's time to sign the fuck up right now. It's time to dial in. And so just get out of your anytime you're trying to do something and you feel the nerves, just get out of your body's way. It is ready to go. You were designed for this. And then 200 years of living the way we lived have pulled that out of you. But at the end of the day, you were made to fight. You were made to go get your meat or die trying. And that's really, when I saw the sport at 20 years old, I said, you know what? I was a huge basketball and football fan. I said, you know what? Basketball and football are kind of stupid. At the end of the day, when it's serious, when it's really human-to-human competition, they get rid of all that stupid shit and they just fight each other, because that is the epitome of human competition. It's the first sport, and it will always be the most impactful sport. Who can beat who in a straight-up fight? You're walking down the street, you see another dude, you size him up, you think, could I beat that guy in a fight? Who makes more money? Who's got a bigger dick? Those are the three things you'll size it up on. Look, making money's hard. Your dick is what it is. Train. Whoop the dude's ass.
As Dana White says, this isn't getting any smaller. It's only getting bigger. And I'm sure he's not just talking about the UFC.
Yeah, I've got to say, brother, I felt like you were actually directly talking to me right now, which is the whole purpose. No. Let me just.
Your boy's gonna be all whiskeyed up, working out. He's like gonna go punch the bat.
I've got like goosebumps, right? Like looking at that, like, oh my god, he's talking to me. But that's the whole point. People that are watching this or listening to this, everyone that's watching or listening is going to feel that same way. And I just man, that one resonated on me.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
I think Jesus is making his entrance into the octagon right now.
Jesus will be here later. But Forrest, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for coming on the show today. This is only our 14th episode, but we're doing pretty good. And to have an epic name like yourself,
you'll make it
on
to
the show.
Where it's all said and done.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank my co-host Matt, my main man Matt, for coming here on the show today. It's been awesome. I want to thank all of our sponsors, and of course, I want to thank the main man, Forrest Griffin.
May I?
Yeah, you thank him.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanking the Ultimate Fighter Season 1 winner, the UFC Hall of Fame Octagon Warrior, and the former UFC Light Heavyweight Champion of the world, Forrest Griffin!
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Thank you, sir.
Buckarette. Yeah, not bad.
Bro, much love, Forrest. Got a lot of love for you, brother.
Thank you, Forrest.
Thank you.